Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. I'm really happy you can join us again tonight. A special welcome to those who are members of our make-believe monastery. That is those subscribed and or commenting. For those who are just dropping in, what we are doing is we're reading through all of Plato with a caveat in 1 year. We are happy to have you here, even if it is just for tonight. I hope you had a good full moon, lunar eclipse day. I'm quite exhausted. Let's take a deep breath and turn to our inner resources, not to drain from it, but to fill it up. Let's see if we can feed ourselves, nourish ourselves on the words of Plato. We're in the Cratylus, Hermogenes. Still there remains Athena, whom you, Socrates, as an Athenian, will surely not forget. There are also Hephaestus and Ares. Socrates, I am not likely to forget them. Hermogenes, no indeed. Socrates, there is no difficulty in explaining the other appellation of Athena. What other appellation? We call her Pallas. Oh yes, to be sure. And we cannot be wrong in supposing that this is derived from armed dancers. For the elevation of oneself or anything else above the earth, or by the use of the hands, we call shaking, palain, or dancing. The elevation of oneself or anything else above the earth, or by the use of hands. Strange dance. Hermogenes. That is quite true, Socrates. Then that is the explanation of the name Pallas. Hermogenes, yes. But what do you say about the other name, Athena? Yes. That is a graver matter, and there, my friend, the modern interpreters of Homer may, I think, assist in explaining the view of the ancients. For most of these, in their explanations of the poet, assert that he meant by Athena mind, nous, and intelligence, dianoia. And the maker of names appears to have had a singular notion about her, and indeed calls her by a still higher title, divine intelligence, thou noesis, as though he would say, this is she who has the mind of God. Theonia, Theonoa, using an alpha as a dialectical variety for eta, and taking away iota and sigma. There seems to be some error in the... Oh, this is a translator note. I'm not going to read that. Perhaps, however, the name Theono may mean she who knows divine things. Thea nousa, better than others. Nor shall we be far wrong in supposing that the author of it wished to identify this goddess with moral intelligence, en the nuisen, and therefore gave her the name Ithuno, which, however, either he or his successors have altered into what they thought a nicer form, and called her Athena. But what do you say of Hephaestus? Speak you of the princely lord of light, Phaios Istora? Surely. Hephaestus is Phiastos and has added the eta by attraction. That is obvious to anybody. The lord of light. Hermogenes. That is very probable until some more probable notion gets into your head. Socrates. To prevent that, you had better ask what is the derivation of Ares. And what is Ares? Ares may be called, if you will, from his manhood, aren, and manliness, or if you please, from his hard and unchangeable nature, which is the meaning of aratos. The latter is a derivation in every way appropriate to the god of war. Very true. And now, by the gods, let us have no more of the gods, for I am afraid of them. Ask about anything but them, and thou shalt see how the steeds of Euthyro can prance. Hermogenes. Only one more god. I should like to know about Hermes, of whom I am said not to be the true son. Let us make him out, and then I shall know whether there is any meaning in what Cratylus says. Socrates. I should imagine that the name Hermes has to do with speech, and signifies that he is an interpreter, Hermenius, or messenger, or thief, or liar, or bargainer. All that sort of thing has a great deal to do with language, as I was telling you. The word erein is expressive of the use of speech, and there is an often recurring Homeric word, emesatu, which means he contrived. Out of these two words, erein and mesesai, the legislator formed the name of the god who invented language and speech. And we may imagine him dictating to us the use of this name. "O my friend," says he to us, "seeing that he is the contriver of tales and speeches, you may rightly call him Eremes. And this has been improved by us, as we think, into Hermes." Iris also appears to have been called from the verb to tell, Irene, because she was a messenger. Hermogenes. Then I am very sure that Cratylus was quite right in saying that I was no true son of Hermes, for I am not a good hand at speeches. Socrates. There is also reason, my friend, in Pan being the double-formed son of Hermes. Hermogenes. How do you make that out? You are aware that speech signifies all things, Pan, and is always turning them round and has two forms, true and false. Certainly. Is not the truth that is in him the smooth or sacred form which dwells above among the gods, whereas falsehood dwells among men below, and is rough like the goat of tragedy? For tales and falsehoods have generally to do with the tragic or goatish life, and tragedy is the place of them. Hermogenes. Very true. Then surely Pan, who is the declarer of all things, Pan, and the perpetual mover, Apollon, of things, is rightly called Apollos, goatherd, he being the two-formed son of Hermes, smooth in his upper part and rough and goat-like in his lower regions. And as the son of Hermes, he is speech, or the brother of speech, and that brother should be like brother, is no marvel. But as I was saying, my dear Hermogenes, let us get away from the gods. Hermogenes: from these sort of gods, by all means, Socrates, but why should we not discuss other kinds of gods? The sun, moon, stars, earth, ether, air, fire, water, the seasons, and the year. You impose a great many tasks upon me. Still, if you wish, I will not refuse. You will oblige me. How would you have me begin? Shall I take first of all him whom you mentioned first, the sun? Very good. The origin of the sun will probably be clearer in the Doric form, for the Dorians call him Alios instead of Helios. And this name is given to him because when he rises, he gathers alizoi, men together, or because he is always rolling in the course ailein ion, about the earth, or from aileoen, of which the meaning is the same as poikilein, to variegate, because he variegates the production of the earth. But what is Selene, the moon? The name is rather unfortunate for Anaxagoras. How so? The word seems to forestall his recent discovery that the moon receives her light from the sun. I'm sorry. Why do you say so? The two words selas, brightness, and phos, light, have much the same meaning, yes? The light about the moon is always new, neon, and always old, enon. If the disciples of Anaxagoras say truly, for the sun in his revolution always adds new light, and there is the old light of the previous month. Very true. The moon is not unfrequently called Selanaya, true. And as she has a light which is always old and always new, en non neon I, she may very probably have the name Selainon, and this, when hammered into shape, becomes Selania. Hermogenes, a real dithyrambic sort of name, that, Socrates. But what do you say of the month and the stars? Mace, month, is called from meosthai, to lessen, because suffering I'm sorry. The name of Astra star seems to be derived from astrape, which is an improvement on anastrope, signifying the upsetting of the eyes. Anastepetheanopa. Hermogenes, what do you say of pur, fire, and udor, water? My own language slipped in there. Socrates, I am at a loss how to explain pur, fire. Either the muse of Euthyro has deserted me, or there is some very great difficulty in the word. Please, however, to note the contrivance which I adopt whenever I am in a difficulty of this sort. What is it? I will tell you, but I should like to know first whether you can tell me what is the meaning of the pur, fire. Indeed, I cannot. Shall I tell you what I suspect to be the true explanation of this and several other words? My belief is that they are of foreign origin, for the Hellenes, the Greeks, especially those who were under the dominion of the barbarians, often borrowed from them. What is the inference? Why, you know that anyone who seeks to demonstrate the fitness of these names according to the Greek language and not according to the languages from which the words are derived is rather likely to be at fault. Yes, certainly. Well then, consider whether this fire is not foreign, for the word is not easily brought into relation with the Greek tongue, and the Thurgarians may be observed to have the same word slightly changed, just as they have udor, water, and kunes, dogs, and many other words. That's true. Any violent interpretation of the word should be avoided, for something to say about them may easily be found, and thus I get rid of pr and udor. Air, homogenes, may be explained as the element which raises. Aere, things from the earth, or as ever-flowing, aere, because the flux of the air is wind, and the poets call the winds air blast, aitai. He who uses the term may mean, so to speak, air flux, aitorun, in the sense of wind flux, pneumatorun. And because this moving wind may be expressed by either term, he employs the word air, aites reo. Ether, I should interpret as ether. This may be correctly said, because this element is always running in a flux about the air. Aithe peritu airu rion. The meaning of the word che, earth, comes out better when in the form of Gaia, or for the earth may be truly called mother, Gaia, genetera, as in the language of Homer, Od. Gegaisi means gegenstai, good. What shall we take next? There are Ori, the seasons, and the two names of the year, Eniostos and Ethos. The Ori should be spelled in the old Attic way. If you desire to know the probable truth about them, they are rightly called the Ori because they divide, Orizuzin, the summers and winters and winds and the fruit of the earth. The winds Enutias and Ethos appear to be the same. That which brings to light the plants and growths of the earth in their turn, and passes them in review within itself. Eneto exetase. This is broken up into two words. Enutios from en-eutu and ethos from etazai. Just as the original name of Zeus was divided into Zena and Dia. And the whole proposition means that this power of reviewing from within is one, but has two names, two words, ethos and enthusia, being thus formed out of a single proposition. Thus far our scripture of the evening. Pallas Athena, the dancing queen, the goddess who danced. I recently heard in a lecture on ancient Greek. So the Greek that Plato writes in is called Attic Greek. He refers often to Attic Greek. Many people today that study ancient Greek study... oh man, now it slips my tongue. I'm not completely 100% healthy, so my mind's not completely worked. I studied that. And the book's not here. Koine Greek. That's the language of the New Testament. Just to make that clear. But I recently heard someone say, in reference to Attic Greek, especially if it's the Athenians, the word God, theos, is both masculine and feminine, and it depends on the form of that you use, because you have masculine or feminine forms of the. And when they speak of the goddess, it's taken for granted that it's Athena. That's why they start off like, of course you're not going to forget about Athena, Athenian, and he doesn't. She who knows divine things, nous, dianoia. Seeing that it's full moon, and I drew a card from the Mary Magdalene deck today, and it was Gaia, and she's mentioned here as well. Let's speak a bit about the feminine and the fact that a woman, a goddess, Athena, was considered nous, mind, and thinking. The one who has rationality. And then Gaia, the mother who takes care of all earth. I think we will do very well to remember these goddesses. What stood out to me, completely different point, through this entire text of Cratylus is how quickly they jump from one word to the other. I don't know if it's just the way podcasts are done nowadays, or if the way dialectic into dialogos is done, but they seem to jump from one name to another without actually really going deep into. Maybe it's just because they're just playing. They don't really care to go too deep. And then they end with a god, which probably was the intention all along, at least of Hermogenes. Hermes. Speech. It is strange, and maybe something that we shouldn't forget in philosophy. Speech turns things round and round. And sometimes it's good because it means we get to look at things from various angles, various perspectives. But wouldn't you rather just dance with Athena? There are different ways of knowing, and not just the four. Well, actually, it feels like almost only propositional is really speech bound. Skill, procedural knowledge is not speech bound at all. Someone might be able to tell you how to do something, but You're not going to learn like that, that's for sure. I know for a fact I don't learn like that. I have to do something myself. Perspectival. I guess it's something of Mary's room, or what is that? You can know about the color blue. You can be informed how it is to be something. But until you literally walk in someone's shoes or become that, or take on that perspective, and of course participatory knowing, that is what I've discovered that I'm trying to actually do here. I'm trying to learn what it is like to be a priestess in a monastery of Sophia, for this year specifically dedicated to Plato. So I do encourage feedback. I've heard somewhere, read somewhere, that we actually learn better from negative feedback, even though we don't actually enjoy that so much. There are things that I'm not gonna pay much attention to, as technology. Like, I know my technological skills is not that great, and I have no intention to improve that, because I do firmly believe that the screen can never, ever be as good as actually being present with someone. So it's always a temporary thing. But if you think like, hey, a priestess should know at least this or do at least that, I'll be happy to hear. And that is all the notes I have. I'm gonna go drink some medicine, go to bed. I woke up around 2 with ear infection, and I dreamt of Joe again, but it wasn't philosophical, of no philosophical significance, around the time that I fell back asleep. Thank you for bearing it out. I hope you have a good night's sleep. And may the spirit of Sophia be with you.